Hi everyone, my name is Carson Canaday and I'm going to be doing my final speech for my class at Oklahoma State University, Oklahoma City, and I'm doing my speech over the violence in cartoons and how it affects our adolescents. Before I begin, I want everyone to think back to your youth. It's Saturday morning, you sit on your couch, you turn on the TV, and what are you watching? You're watching cartoons. It's been said for years that as we grow up, cartoons like the Looney Tunes have had way too much violence for the brain of a young child. The violence in these cartoons have changed the way children think when they watch these cartoons from a young age. Our whole lives we are taught to limit the amount of violence that is exposed to children when we are letting them see as much as they want all day, every day. Not only does the brain get affected, but the body of these poor children does as well. When exposed to too much television or electronics, the child has a much higher possibility to become obese from a lack of physical activity. What is the desire to watch television as a child? Is it an escape from the real life? Is it to relieve stress from days of school? We wouldn't know if we can't remember back to when we were children. When we were all in our younger years, we didn't have the iPads that we could watch all day, every day. We didn't have the electronic babysitters. How does television affect a child's brain, and how long does the deterioration take? In this research, I have found that any more than 1 or 2 hours of screen time, not just television or cell phones, all screens are too much. I think all American children and adults have way too much screen time than they should. Studies analyzing the content of popular cartoons noted that they contain 20 to 25 violent acts per hour, which is about 5 times as many as primetime programs. Overall, 46% of television violence occurs in cartoons. And here I have a chart showing the differences between adult dramatic films and the children's animated films, showing the survival rate by the hour. Much of current childhood obesity can be linked to the extensive use of electronics and lack of physical activity due to the arising of the coronavirus. Before COVID came around, children were able to go to the schools and have their PE, their recess, to move around and have any kind of physical activity. And without that, many children don't have the chance to have the healthy meals from the schools that they provide and the activity throughout the school day. When they don't have the time to go to school, they are left at home with nothing to do other than online classes, which is just sitting at a desk like we do now, taking care of their schoolwork. Children under the age of 18 months should not have any screen time whatsoever. Many parents say their children enjoy watching it or that they even like it. It is impossible for a young child that young to enjoy something that they can't even understand. A count took place in 2006 by a psychologist by the name of Stephen J. Kirsch. They concluded that there is an increasingly more amount of violence in a cartoon rather than in live-action dramas. This would mean that a child was more likely to be exposed to violence on their Saturday morning routine rather than on a primetime show. Although there has been very few studies of violence on the adolescent's brain, many children in the Mann's experiment could point out the violence in a cartoon rather than the violence in a clip from the Vietnam War, for example. This experiment was done in 1974, so it is quite outdated. And I have a quote from him. Violent elements in cartoons were consistently overlooked, with only 27% of 4 to 8-year-olds and a mere 16% of 9 to 12-year-olds correctly identifying that the cartoon they had just watched contained violence. In comparison, nearly 70% of youth in Snow's sample classified the television Western Gunsmoke as containing violence. Regardless of age, all children correctly identified news clips of Vietnam War as containing violent imagery. And contrary to this experiment, most adults who are asked about cartoons will tell you that the humorous ones are not violent. As children grow, they are like sponges with the incredible ability to absorb what they see and hear. When a child is at a young age, he or she has something that I remember it as a neuron firing unit. This is when a child sees a cartoon character act on a problem by using violence. After this, child will try it, but they won't just crawl out from under a boulder that just fell off a cliff. Therefore, parents and guardians must pay attention to how much a cartoon a child is watching. Many people all around the world grew up on cartoons such as Tom and Jerry or Roadrunner. Though we grew up like this, we are not violent people. So what is the difference between old cartoons and the new cartoons? Many believe it is the type of humor that is used throughout these cartoons. After extensive research, I have concluded that violent cartoons do in fact alter children's brains. These children are indeed watching way too much violent cartoons, and we must begin to limit the amount these children watch even more than we may do now. While we must limit these children's screen exposure, we must also encourage them to go outside and play, get any type of physical activity these kids can get before it is too late for them. And here I have another chart for the weight and the BMI of children from 6 to 11-year-olds throughout the year of 2019 to 2021. 2020, sorry. And it has gone up quite incredibly throughout then. So, thank you.